I'm Shane Whalley. My pronouns are Z, here, and here's. I'm a graduate of the Steve Hicks School of Social Work. I graduated in 2003, and I am currently the owner and founder of Daring Dialogues Consulting. Yeah, I think so. If I were going to think about maybe my top 5 things, right, or some things that I feel are super important. One is getting mentors and having honest conversations about what you want to do, right? Dream big with somebody who is a couple of steps ahead of you, right? And that might be faculty members, that might be staff at UT who are doing something that you want to be doing, right? When I worked at the Gender and Sexuality Center, I talked to students all the time about how I got to be where I am, right? So mentorship and coffee are really important. Networking just in general. I'm an introvert, and so it's hard for me to network. And I just stretched myself around that. Again, that kind of making sure that when you're interviewing to make sure you're a good fit as much as you're a good fit for them. I, again, recommend being authentic. And if they don't like that, if they don't like me, I don't want to work there. To dream big, right? To really dream what you really most want to be doing, and know that probably won't be your first job, but if you're persistent, it can be your job. And to always work a little outside of your comfort zone, right? Like if we only take jobs that we are 100% ready for, one, we'll be bored in our work. And two, we won't learn and grow. So I like to look for work that I'm maybe 75 to 80% ready for, but there's 20% of it that terrifies me, but that I trust I can do, and that I'm going to make sure there's a mentor for me somewhere, either in or outside of the organization, that can help me get that 20%. And the other thing I would say is figure out how to do salary negotiations, and know that your first job may not have the salary you want. Again, I'm a social worker, so no job really has the salary I want. But I think especially for people who have an identity that were socialized that their worth isn't everything it should be, that we have to ask up. Right? Like if you lowball the salary, they will give you that lowball. They won't say that's a lowball, we'll pay you more. They'll pay you whatever that terrible figure is that came out of your mouth. So really dream a little big, but don't dream so big that it's unrealistic. So doing homework, talking to people in the field, but don't undersell yourself. Those are it. So I knew that I wanted to be a social justice educator for a long time, since the 90s, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. And I actually was, KUT was doing a fund drive before you could give your money online. So it's when we were still on phone calls, right? And I was talking to a group of people who did leadership development through ropes courses, in my undergrad is in recreation administration. So I was interested in that. And I said, hey, do you do any kind of diversity work as part of your leadership development? And they said, no. And I said, do you know anybody? And at the time, the School of Social Work had a diversity institute. And so they told me about it, and I looked up the program. And a year later, I was in graduate school. And I specifically, when people said, why are you going to school? I said, because I want to be a social justice educator, specifically around LGBTQ. And everybody was like, welcome. And I didn't expect welcome for that sentence. And so I kind of found my people, right, in the school. And at the time, that job didn't really exist, right? So in 2007, the education coordinator job opened up at the Gender and Sexuality Center at UT. And I had been on the first advisory board for the center. And so when that job came open, I was like, yes, it was like my dream job. So one of the things I would say is really important is like if you have something you really want to do, you can, with work, you can dream it into existence, right? So I did things that were not my dream job, kind of laying the foundation, and then my dream job opened up and I did that job for 7 years and it was amazing. And so it was, I didn't realize that I was going to get a master's in social. I had no idea, right? Like, um, until I knew what I wanted to do, and then somebody opened a door for me. And I think, that has been, there's a lot of privilege in that, right? But I've had the ability to have people connect me with things, right? So I got hooked into Waterloo Counseling Center because a professor of mine was like, hey, there's this nonprofit and they need admin support. Would you be interested, right? So, and then when the GSC opened, there was a call for the advisory committee and I was like, yes, right? So I just have kind of, when I've heard about things, done some research and then taken a lot of risks and walked through a lot of doors that I wasn't quite sure what would happen or where it would lead me. I took a job as a manager and I found out that I don't want to be a manager, right? That I like doing frontline work. And so when I left that job, I started Daring Dialogues Consulting. And it's, I do workshops, right? LGBTQ, talking about cultural humility. A lot of people use cultural competency, and I don't like that as a term. So I use cultural humility and kind of social justice frameworks, right? So I did it for 4 years, and then somebody reached out to me for a full-time job that ended up not being the best fit for me. And so I've reopened Daring Dialogues. And now, because of the murder of George Floyd, it's like I'm always a little bit ahead of my time, right? I wanted to be an LGBT facilitator and there wasn't a job, and then there was one. And I started Daring Dialogues, and DEI wasn't quite what it is at the moment. So now that I'm back in it, what excites me is when I get to do longer term. I've done a lot of one-off training. So 2 hours with you, then 2 hours with somebody else. And what's exciting me now is people are interested in doing longer term work. And the thing I'm the most excited about right now is getting with groups of people to dream forward, right? To say like, so instead of talking about what we don't want, it's like, what is the world we want? And then how do we get there?